So can you introduce yourself for us, please?
My name is Erica Buchanan. I am a senior film studies major here at the University of Buffalo.
All right. So how do your work and aspirations relate to media study?
Honestly, I don't know. So, I came to UB as a media studies major with an intended production concentration. And then I decided that I don't want to do that. So, I became a film studies major, finished my major, had fun. I came here to do what I like, not to do what makes me money. Not the brightest idea I've ever had, but right now I'm in the process of applying for AmeriCorps positions, and specifically in Triple C and FEMA Corps. And it basically works with building communities that have been destroyed or neglected or forgotten. Often they are left out of the media limelight when, 3 or 6 months pass after it's cool to help. They're kind of forgotten. So my goal for next year, and I guess for the future, is to help people. How does that relate to media study? One does not really know.
Fair. So why is media study important to you?
Why is media study important to me? So I have to explain everything. So I'm from DC, right? And I grew up wanting to do things with my hands. So how do I explain this? That makes sense. So I always knew I was never going to work a 9 to 5 in front of a desk, right? And I never really knew what I wanted to do. So in DC, we have DC summer jobs. So they place you in the career, and when you're in high school, so they place you in like these summer jobs where they think you're going to have a career in. So I was always placed in the arts, broad term. So one summer I worked at our public access television station. So that kind of started this idea that, oh, I'm gonna work in film, right? Wrong. Because while I did have fun at that job, I had fun working with the nonprofits we interviewed rather than having fun filming. Like, filming was a task to be done during the day. My fun job was, oh, we get to volunteer now. So media study relates to my life as, I guess, a mode of, getting my work out there. And my work is obviously in nonprofits and not in media study. But media, I guess, is the mode in which people study my work, maybe.
Okay. So it seems like you're more so into volunteer and community work. How can you combine, or will you combine, media study and volunteer work?
How will I combine media study and
Mhm.
volunteer work? Well, when I do service projects, the main thing we are always doing is posting pictures online. And that's how we also fund our projects. So, you good money?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for this spring break, I went to New Jersey, and it was Hurricane Sandy relief. So every day we always take pictures to prove that we were there, that we were doing this work. But I also blog about it, and I tweet about it, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. So all of these are types of media, right? Right or wrong? Do you agree? You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So media study, I guess, is a part of my life because I live digitally. Like, most of my interactions with my friends are digital. Most of them are online, on Tumblr, or on Snapchat, which is my favorite right now, or Facebook, or Twitter. So I guess that's how they're related, but are you asking how do they relate to making art pieces, or are you asking just in general how they're related?
How will you relate?
How will I relate it? I mean, I already do.
Mhm.
Like, I post online every day. I make Indiegogos so that I prove that I do this work and not sit at home and eat Cheetos.
Okay. Seeing how you're invested in community work and volunteer work and how you incorporate the use of media to not only share that work but also use it as evidence for the work that you've done. In the future, how do you see media servicing you in the work that you intend on doing?
How will media service me in the work reading this article the other day. I'm gonna bring it back to a point, I promise, about online activism and how it's not seen as legitimate because you're not in the field doing things. So it was basically saying how this generation, I don't really like that term, but thinks that by sharing something on Facebook, real change can happen, and that often it doesn't. Well, I would argue it does. And I can't I can post or point to specific examples of this, but I will choose not to. But you can look it up if you feel free. But how there have been campaigns or even Twitter hashtags that make people say sorry for things that they would have never checked themselves on before. So, media is a part of my work because my goal will be to help communities that are neglected. And so to make them more visible, we have better access, I guess, now to producing our own media spaces online. And they might be like micro spaces where only 10 people follow them, but that gathering can become so much bigger if the people within that space are active online.
All right. So, being that you just told us how you would relate the two and so forth, how do you think people would react to this? Because a lot of people see media more so, depending on what it is exactly, more so as an art form, and posting pictures of community service work, people wouldn't necessarily relate the two. So how would you bring it back to that, or do you want to bring it back to that? Do you see it as an art form, or do you just see it as more so of a social?
Well, this is gonna sound really like cocky, but my day-to-day life is an art form, right? I perform every day. When I wake up and I decide to wear what I want to wear, I perform. So, my activism is not a form. I don't like to consider it a form of performance, but it's how I perform day-to-day tasks. You perform cooking. Now, you don't think of that as an art form, but some people do. I perform walking down the street. How I strut is a performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how does that relate? So, if people don't see it as a performance, then fuck you. I don't care. It's not. What do you mean? Like, I don't care. I want you to donate to my cause and help these people because they need help. And so, if you don't see it as a valid form of performance, okay, cool. That's great. Are you going to give me some money or not?
Accurate. I have the same belief. So,
Are you supposed to cuss on this? I'm sorry.
do as you feel necessary. So, since if you don't validate your volunteer work as a performance or like an art form because it's supposed to have a specific outcome, it's supposed to help specific people, what would you describe it as?
Something you're supposed to do.
So it would be labeled basically humanitarian work.
I wouldn't even call it that. I guess it is communitarian work, but I feel like everyone should volunteer. I just feel like something that we're supposed to give back to each other. Like, you're supposed to help your fellow person. So I don't even think of labeling it as something larger. It's something that I feel like is a part of the human spirit. Like, we're supposed to work towards a greater good. Or at least that's how I live my life. Like, I'm supposed to help others.
Can I do a follow-up question?
Sure.
Okay. Aside from the social media aspect of media, because media is a very large spectrum of things, technology is also a very large spectrum, and in our department we like to describe it as media technologies at times, to incorporate media as more than just entertainment or visuals, but also sound and types of equipment and blah blah blah. What abstract, I'm saying that in quotations, forms of media would you like to incorporate in your activism and your volunteer work, besides from social networking and fundraising via online and documentation via pictures?
What abstract forms of media would I like to incorporate in my work? Can I ask you, what do you mean by abstract forms of media? Sorry.
Yes. digital data collection, possibly performative arts forms on streets. Um, let's see. Maybe even new innovative technologies that assist you in your volunteer work. Ideally, what sort of media would help you? A robotic car that takes pictures of you as you do your work, or I mean, just
Okay. So I would want awareness for my cause, right? So obviously, like, documentaries help because it's just a quick, 90-minute way of getting people to be aware of a cause. But what abstract forms? I really don't know. I've never thought about it that way. I know that one of the AmeriCorps jobs I was applying for is with a classroom of kids and teaching them how their voices can be expressed through art. So I guess a way of empowering communities through art could be an aspect, but I don't know at this point.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this.